Hola, Cyber Profe here. Let's learn about a tense in Spanish called the imperfect. You've probably seen my video about the preterit, and now you want to know about the imperfect, the other past tense. In a basic sense, we use the imperfect to describe how things used to be. Good news for you Spanish learners. The imperfect is one of the easiest tenses to memorize because there are only 3 irregular verbs and no stem changers. The irregulars are ir, ser, and ver, and I'll show you those later in the video. Let me show you how this tense works with the AR verb hablar, to talk. And just a quick side note, the nosotros form of hablar in the imperfect is one of my favorite words to say. Okay, so hablar in the imperfect, that gives us hablaba, hablabas, hablaba, hablábamos, hablabais, hablaban. What do you notice about these endings? Did you see that the yo form and the el, ello, usted form have the same ending? My students often hear me say that pronouns aren't necessary and overuse will identify you as a non-native speaker, but this is one case where pronouns come in handy to avoid confusion. Let's try this with another verb, trabajar, to work. This gives us trabajaba, trabajabas, trabajaba, trabajábamos, trabajabais, trabajaban. Okay, while the preterit is for ed endings, generally speaking, and for when we want to talk about things that are over and done, the imperfect is used to express habits or unfinished actions. It is generally used when the speaker wants to say used to, was, or were. For example, yo trabajaba de camarera cuando tenía 16 años. This would translate as I used to work as a waitress when I was 16 years old. For my visual learners, if you recall for the preterit, I used the image of a fish leaping out of the water. For the imperfect, I use the image of waves along a beach. Think about being at the beach. How might you describe the waves? Never ending, they just keep coming, repetitive. The fish coming out of the water, the preterit, has a definite beginning and end point, but not the waves. The waves are ongoing with no real beginning or end, and this represents the imperfect tense. Things that someone does habitually or used to do in the past would be expressed in the imperfect. A completed action in the past or a series of repetitive actions uses the preterit. The best way to learn, as always, is just to get out there and talk to another Spanish speaker or Spanish learner. There are multiple websites that offer tutoring services, or even better, talk to your classmates and your teacher. If you're feeling shy, you can get a feel for this tense by reading books written in Spanish or turn on the subtitles on your device and watch any of the great Spanish shows that are out there. If that's not an option for you, the acronym WATERS might come in handy. And of course, there are trigger words you can look out for. WATERS stands for weather, age, time, emotion, repetition, setting, or description. Okay, let's work through some examples. Use the word box to help you match the correct ending with the pronoun. Pause here to give yourself time to think. Did you get yo bailaba, jugábamos, ella caminaba, nadaban? Notice I only used the pronouns for the yo form and the ella form just to avoid confusion since the endings are the same. Remember, Spanish isn't English with different words. When we translate, we need to translate for meaning. So let's take this sentence. Siempre hablábamos en clase. We can actually translate that 3 different ways, and each way is correct, just depends on context. We could say, we always spoke in class. We always used to speak in class. We would always speak in class. Let's take a quick look at the ER/IR verbs since they follow the same rules just with different endings. Notice that with the AR verbs, only the nosotros form uses an accent, while with the ER-IR verbs, all of them have an accent on the I. Pause here until you're ready to move on. Since there are only 3 irregulars, I'll go ahead and show you what those are. This is how we conjugate ir, ser, and ver. Pause as long as you want to. Once you are feeling comfortable with the basic rules for using the imperfect, you can level up by continuing to watch the video to see when else this tense is used. It's very common to use the imperfect when we want to indicate was-ing or were-ing. Let's look at a few examples to see what I mean. Yo jugaba videojuegos cuando mi amigo llegó a mi casa. Elena hablaba por teléfono cuando alguien tocó la puerta. Fred miraba a la nueva chica bonita en la clase cuando su novia entró y lo vio. Ella se enojó. Notice in those examples that I use the imperfect to set the scene, like waves coming up on the beach, and the preterit to let the reader know what happened. The imperfect is often used with tener expressions. For example, tenía hambre, tenía sed, tenía sueño, tenía ganas de, tenía miedo, etc. And you will commonly find it paired with verbs of volition, wishes and desires, like querer, desear, esperar, etc. As always, just get out there and practice. Even if you mess up, odds are you'll still be understood, and there is no downside to being multilingual, only positives. Well, that was it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this helpful. If you liked this video, please click on that subscribe button for me. And if you have a question about what you just saw or heard, ask in the comments below and I'll answer. Gracias y nos vemos.